WBUR Podcasts, Boston.
I'm Daryl C. Murphy, and you're listening to The Common. WBUR reporter Ariel Gray.
Hey.
Welcome back. Ari.
What's up, Daryl?
You're back with another history piece for us.
Yes, and in some ways, yes, it is kind of a history piece.
It's a people's history.
Yes.
Right? So
yes,
it's one thing to learn about history in the classroom or from books, and it's another to learn directly from the communities that these books talk about. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm thinking about is photographs, old videos, old news clips, whatever it may be, these things that capture everyday life and cultural moments that could be forgotten or overlooked. And your recent story touches on that, is all about that, matter of fact.
Yes, it is.
And you take us into the Healey Library at UMass Boston, and you introduce us to a young woman named Ebony Gill, who runs an Instagram account called Boston Urban Archive. Tell us more about Ebony and this account.
Yeah, so I first discovered the Boston Urban Archive a couple of months ago, and I just thought it was absolutely incredible, the types of material that were being pulled and found and then posted onto the Instagram page. And it has a huge following. It gained a huge following really quickly. And I was wondering, and I had been wondering, who was running this page? And
because it's all these photos and videos of old Boston.
Of old Boston, and in particular, communities of color in Boston, so Black and brown Bostonians, which I found really intriguing. I had no idea who ran the page until Ebony eventually posted herself. She doesn't tend to post herself on the Boston Urban Archive page. And I reached out to her, and luckily enough, she responded to me, and I was able to go with her and kind of shadow her as she was pulling material for the Boston Urban Archive page. And yeah, she is graduating this year from UMass Boston with a degree in English. And she loves history, she loves research, and she's from Boston. And all of those reasons are why she started the page in the first place.
And so you were in this library with her as she was working, basically. What's her process like? How does she decide what to post?
When I was with her, there were like a ton of boxes, and she was just like pulling boxes, going through
How many
old
boxes?
newspapers. I don't know, at least like 5 or 6 boxes I think they had pulled for her. And the cool thing about the Healey Library is that it also houses Hip Hop Archive. So that's initially how she got into really doing kind of this research. She was doing a paper for a class, and she decided to do a paper on the history of hip-hop in Boston. So she utilized Healey Library for its hip-hop archive, and she started finding a whole bunch of other really, really cool archival material that she felt like other people really needed to see. And so she started the Instagram page and started posting all of this stuff on there. I think she tends to go for stuff that will elicit a visceral reaction from people, that will have people remembering what it was like back then. So she tends to find these photos and videos of community, of gatherings, of organizations that were doing a lot of community work back then in the 80s and 90s. I mean, she's found old videos of like Mark Wahlberg as a kid that she posted. I know that she, some of the archives that she utilizes, like GBH's online archive and things like that, to find these really cool old videos and photos and stuff.
How does that hit people in the community? What kind of comments does Ebony get on this page?
Going through the comments, it's really incredible because there are people who comment who are like, hey, that's me in the green, or that's me in the back. And then there are other people where, they're like, that's my mother, that's my aunt, that's my grandmother. A lot of folks have personal connections to what it is that she posts, which is why I think it's garnered such a following in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, it started in December.
Yeah.
And now she has more than 30,000 followers.
Yeah. And so people feel very intimately connected to the things that she's posting because it's showing what life was like. And not in a way that's voyeuristic, but in a way that's really kind of telling a community story. And I think that's really important because you're right, it is left out a lot when you think about the narrative of Boston at large. It's very whitewashed. And we've talked about this before at length. And Ebony and I talked about this. And that's kind of one of the reasons why she started the page in the first place.
I feel like just through a social media page, I'm kind of bringing people together or giving people like a nostalgic feeling, you know? And I feel like it's just doing something for the culture of Boston and kind of reminding people of like the roots and culture and Black history here.
So, you know, that's one of the big reasons why she started the page was to share this history so that people do know that Black and brown folks are here, but more than that, that we've been here and that there is evidence of that.
Well, Ari, this feels like a good place to take a break, but when we get back, I want to know how this page hits you, not as a reporter, but as a native Bostonian. So we'll be right back.
Did you kill Marlene Johnson?
I think you're one of the first people to have actually asked.
From WBUR and ZSP Media, this is Beyond All Repair, a new podcast about an unsolved murder that will leave you questioning everything.
Somebody should be in jail for murdering my sister.
A woman who's never been believed.
As long as they think I have done this, then they're not looking for who actually did this.
And that's what makes it a cold case.
No, it's a botched case.
And a search for the truth, once and for all.
Wow, it just gets more interesting.
Beyond All Repair. Listen and follow wherever you get your podcasts.
Be careful. You're digging in a place that's been very peaceful for a while.
Do it anyway. Dig.
And we're back with WBUR reporter Ariel Gray. So Ari, we are talking about your recent story, which is about an Instagram account called Boston Urban Archive. And it's a page which offers a look back into Boston's Black and brown communities. I want to know, was there anything personal to you on this page?
A lot of the things that get posted on the page are a little bit before like my time in Boston. A lot of it tends to be from like the 80s and like early 90s, and some stuff from earlier from like the 70s. So I don't think that there was any one post in particular that got me interested in the page. I think it was just the idea of something like that existing and me knowing that it was so needed in a city like Boston. Our history here a lot of times is erased, overlooked, not celebrated, not highlighted. And I think that this page is able to do all of those things while also engaging the community in conversation. And Ebony also talked a lot about that, about how much she's learning from people in the community. People reach out to her and share information with her, share history with her that she's then able to do additional research on. And she said that's probably one of the most rewarding things about running the Instagram account. And I just think that the way in which she's able to pull stuff from the archive and the way that a lot of times it's still relevant now, it just speaks to the fact that like history does repeat itself.
And tell me, this story is under our Field Guide to Boston project, which is a project dedicated to helping our listeners get to know their communities better, whether they're a newcomer, whether they've been here for a long time, because the city is changing. Can you talk about the importance of this page in this moment when the city has undergone so much change?
The Boston Urban Archive, a lot of the material tends to focus on areas where folks of color live in Boston. And those areas, Roxbury, Mattapan, Hyde Park, Dorchester. Right now, a lot of people of color are being pushed out of those areas due to gentrification and development. And so part of what I fear as a Bostonian is folks coming here and seeing these communities, but not understanding that these communities have changed. And what I think the Boston Urban Archive does is provide a snapshot of what these communities were like. And you can kind of follow that thread through to the current and see, just how things have played out. So I think it's really, really important that people know the history of where it is that they're living. Because if not, then that's how folks get erased from the conversation and get erased from the history. And
erased from the community.
Erased from the community, exactly. And there may come a time where, I may not be able to afford to live in Mattapan. Mm-hmm. But I want people to know that I was there, mm-hmm. And I think that is a sentiment that a lot of Black and brown Bostonians have.
Mm. And yeah, this is another story, another history story from you. This is your jam.
Yeah, it is my jam, yeah.
A lot of the stories you do are about something that's been overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see people like Ebony making a difference in the story of Boston?
Yeah, of course, I do. Absolutely. And I do think people like Ebony, people like Dart Adams. I mean, there are a ton of people here.
Shout out to Dart.
Yeah, there are a ton of people here who are doing the work of remembering. And that's important work. And that's why I think pages like the Boston Urban Archive are so essential. And actually, here's Ebony talking a little bit about what she feels the page does for the city.
There's so much that I'm learning about and that's new to me. And I think that's very telling, as a woman of color who's lived here for a long time and still discovering all of these things that I feel like should be shared in school or should be like common knowledge.
Ebony is talking about, again, like reminding people that Black and brown folks are here, have been here for a while, that we have a very nuanced and rich history here, and that Boston is not what you see on the big screen. It's so much more than that, and we deserve to be part of that story.
Well, Ari, thank you so much for this story. It is very cool. We really appreciate you coming through to talk with us, as always.
Thank you for having me again, Daryl. I appreciate it.
That's WBUR reporter Ariel Gray. And that's our show for today. Thank you so much for listening to The Common. If you want to share your memories of the city or some history, hit us up on Instagram at WBUR The Common or send us an email at thecommon@wbur.org. I'm Daryl C. Murphy, and I will talk to you tomorrow.